Hi everyone! Some of you may recognize this plan from the original Dome Greenhouse video series a few years ago, where it displayed the fish tank, sump tank, and filtration. A few things were shifted around after this plan, but the filter remained in the design. I just never bothered to install it, until now. The existing large sump tank has a cone bottom, and part of the goal was for it to collect the solids at the center, and they would get pumped into the grow beds. Unfortunately, the cone isn't quite steep enough, and it doesn't swirl fast enough to collect at the center, so I've had to mix it up once in a while. So far, the media beds with composting worms have been able to keep up with the solids, but I'm getting some sludge ending up in the DWC beds, and also some solids building up in the supply lines, so on occasion I have to flush them out. It hasn't been a problem, but I'm planning on expanding the system in the future, and I want to reduce some of the solids getting into the beds. The old setup used a solid lifting output, or SLOW, to suck the solids from the bottom of the fish tank through a 1-inch pipe. There was a second 2-inch line used as an emergency overflow if too much water was getting pumped into the fish tank. The new setup will have the 1-inch line going into the swirl filter. To reduce the risk of the filter overflowing, the outlet pipe is 1 1/4 inch. Then there is a 1 1/2 inch waste line. Because there is less suction on the 1-inch pipe from less head, the 2-inch overflow will be utilized a bit more, so I extended this more into the center of the tank. On occasion, this line would suck in fish food as it floated around the edges, or an occasional fish would get sucked down into the sump tank. After partially draining the fish tank, I needed to install a new bulkhead fitting so the solid lifting output could get to the swirl filter. Be careful not to leave any plastic particles in the tank or the fish will try to eat them. Any barbs from drilling should be removed, and the side of the tank needs to be cleaned so the bulkhead fitting will make a good seal. Bulkhead fittings are really easy to install. Usually they can just be hand tightened. Most people have problems with them when they are over tightened and crush the rubber seal. My setup is a bit different from others as I have it set to siphon water from the tank and break the siphon with a little hole. The base has a bushing with slots cut in to keep the fish out. Then a second larger cap with slits that is able to settle along the bottom in case the pipe lifts a bit. All the threads are the same with the new bulkhead fitting, so this section goes right back into place. The old drain was abandoned and capped. This bulkhead fitting is a 1 1/4 inch fitting, so I need to use a 1 1/4 inch thread to 1-inch slip fitting. I like to use the larger bulkheads in case I ever decide to increase the pipe sizes. From here I install a ball valve so I can shut off the flow to the filter if it needs to be cleaned or serviced. While I'm working on the rest of the plumbing, I can now turn the water back onto the fish and let the water go through the existing overflow. This cone tank is a bit small for this system, but for $30 I couldn't pass it up. This is why I'm keeping the 1-inch pipe into the swirl, to restrict the flow into this tank. If it flows too fast, it will actually create a cyclone in the center and lift the solids right out through the overflow. After the valve, the water then heads down into the filter and shoots out with a 45-degree elbow to force the water to circulate. A new bulkhead fitting is added through the side of the filter and a 1 1/4 inch drain line is run to the sump tank. Inside the filter, the drain line comes up through the side of the center, then heads up using an elbow. I then increase the pipe size to 2 inch just to give the water a bit more room to drop into the drain. The waste line connects to an existing 2-inch bulkhead fitting and is reduced to 1 1/2 inches and closed with a ball valve. After firing it up, it starts to swirl right away, catching most of the heavier solids. There is still some lighter solids that escape from filtration, but they will still get caught in the media beds. After a day, the bottom of the cone has a nice collection of solids, and it's easy enough to drain the waste into a bucket. At some point I may run this into a demineralization process, but for now this waste will just go into the compost. Thanks for watching!